when I was a teenager, it was such a big part of your daily ritual to do your hair and to worry about your hair. And I was like, oh man, and go to the bathroom at school and then oh man, does it look good? It was always in my head when I was 15, 16. My dad went bald when he was 22, 23. And as I left high school, I started to see that, okay, it's actually moving back a little bit. But when it first starts, you're not really sure. It's like, is this happening? Is it? Because
You're like hoping that it isn't, but there's signs thinking like, oh, I think it might be, but you're still holding on to the sort of hope, thinking like, no, it might not.
yeah.
How's it going, everyone? And welcome to the Baldcafe podcast. This is episode 40, and today we got Giovanni joining us. He's all the way in the Netherlands, coming to us via Skype. How's it going, man?
It's going good. It's going good.
Good. So you're 22 now, right? We had a
Yeah.
conversation just really. You're 22 years old, and you recently put out a video on your own YouTube channel talking about your own experience, going through male pattern baldness and shaving your hair. You said this started when you were about, late 17, 18 years old.
Right. Yeah. I finished high school, and I'd always had like a high hairline. And even in high school, when I was in senior year, junior year, I had it was with one of my friends. It was like, oh yeah, you're going bald. But even then, it was just because I had a high hairline. It wasn't because it was receding. But it was always in my head when I was 15, 16. My dad went bald when he was 22, 23, and it's like, okay, well that's what. Yeah, and it's also like I'm like what, 5'5", 5'6", and my dad's 5'5", so I've already gone through that struggle of like, oh, I'm not going to be taller than my dad because my dad's like my height now. So
Yeah.
what's coming next? Is the hair coming next as well? And it was always there, and it was in my head. And then as I left high school, I started to see that, okay, it's actually moving back a little bit. But when it first starts, you're not really sure. It's like, is this happening? Is it? Because
You're like hoping that it isn't, but there's signs thinking like, oh, I think it might be, but you're still holding on to the sort of hope, thinking like, no, it might not.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly that. And I remember going to California right before I moved to London, and I picked up these hair bands, and yeah, I just wore the hair bands for a while because like it was enough to look normal and to cover up the part, and then my hair was thick enough and it had enough volume that it worked. I'd let my hair grow out because I didn't know any hairdressers or barbers in the UK where I was living, and that's where I realized, oh man, like I'd let my hair outgrow longer than I had in a long time, and my hairline was actually like moved back a lot, way
Right.
back. I had enough hair that you could cover up your
Like the receding
temples,
parts.
yeah, the receding
temples,
parts.
yeah.
And I think that's common for a lot of people. You can comb over it to an extent. It was getting really, really thin at the front. When it starts to really thin.
I saw in your video like a lot of hats, the hair bands. Beyond
Right.
that, is it is it something you kind of often conscious of all the time? Is it affecting your life in any other
Yeah,
ways?
I don't know. Maybe it was the right time for me. It was the perfect time to decide to change your hair drastically because people are always used to you at home. With the way you look, people know the way you look, but here you're in a different country, new people,
Meeting new people, yeah.
everything, it's almost as close as you can get
clean
to.
slate.
Nobody knows. Yeah,
Yeah.
nobody knows you because you're the international student in a new country. So the first maybe 7 months, if I'm remembering correctly, of first year, I had it really short, but sooner or later I was like, yeah, but I hate paying. Actually, I was like, I'm on a student budget, and it costs like 10, 20 pounds to get a haircut. Why don't I just do it myself? And then I bought the clippers, and then I started doing it shorter, and then shorter, and then it's like, why not go shorter? And sooner or later, maybe a year of having it quite short, I was like, it's moving back, and I didn't really struggle with it. I think I would have really struggled with it if I was younger. I don't know. I had this experience in front of the camera on YouTube, and I built up a bit of confidence in myself that I was like, okay, if this is happening, I'm just going to embrace it. I've read enough of the stories online of people really struggling with it, finding ways, hair transplants, propecia. No, was it minoxidil? And I
Yeah.
used that for a while, actually, now that I think
Okay.
about it. And I got tired of it, and I was like, I got really tired of it after using it for a couple months. I just thought, I'm just gonna cut it short. That's it. It was that simple for me.
I like that. Like it's a different because I had a similar experience. I had a similar experience. I knew for some reason I just knew that I don't know whether it was the sort of when I first started doing research, or literally, when you Google like how to deal with hair loss, or I
Yeah.
was already like on YouTube quite a lot. Like I used to watch a lot of YouTube, and some of the first videos that I found in that, I wasn't like, I didn't put into the search bar like how to hold on to my hair, or like how to stop losing my hair. I was literally like, how should I deal with it? Or like,
Right.
I think I said like how to accept it, because that's what I really wanted to know. And so I was lucky in the sense that the first stuff that I saw was, guys saying, hey, there's nothing you can do about it. That I really think the best thing is just accept it, just go with it. Your life will be absolutely fine, no problem, if you just, accept it,
Yeah.
shave your head,
It's a
grow
whole
it.
less stressful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that really spoke to me early on. I just realized super early, like, look, yes, there are things you can do to like delay it or slow it down and try and hold on to it. But
Yeah. Yeah.
eventually, whether you're 30, 40, even 70 years old, there's going to come a point, if your hair's falling out, when you're going to have no hair,
Yeah, and exactly that. That's exactly what I thought. I thought, you at least because I was like 18, 19, I was like, I'm so young, maybe I can prevent it.
Right.
And that's why I started using the
Minoxidil.
minoxidil. Uh, but even that, but then sooner or later, it's like you're right. Uh, it's gonna happen sooner or later, and might as well just do it now
Yeah.
than later. At least every single person that you meet from now on won't know you for who you were. They'll know you for who you are.
Exactly.
Uh,
So it's interesting. I want to kind of pick your brain on what do you think gave you that confidence, like as a young guy early on, to just kind of, just kind of accept it, and just kind of decide, hey, I'm just going to go with it.
I started doing YouTube videos when I was 17, and it's directly correlates to my filmmaking because I was 17 years old and I started doing these fitness workout videos, and I was really into these fitness vloggers. And back in Texas, if people were familiar with like the
Christian
Christian
Guzman.
Guzman, long story short, I got into filmmaking because of fitness videos on YouTube. Being around that environment of I guess you could say like these really buff guys who do workout videos, and also my own personal divergence from that to making my own creative videos kind of forced me to be confident in myself, because you're making you're making creative content that's very close to you, because you're expressing your creativity on the open forum that is YouTube, getting feedback and comments from people, and building up that resistance of those really like nasty comments that you get, and then also those comments that you get of appreciation. And after a couple years of that, uh, you build up a tolerance that it's like, yeah, all right. You stop caring about what other people think, because they affected me a lot more when I first started out than they do now,
Yeah.
both the negative and the positive, because
Yeah.
there's so many, and I love reading them, and I reply to them, and I appreciate them wholly. But as a person, your tolerance grows, and your filter, and the way that things can affect you changes, right? Because you're used to it. It's normal.
Something I talk about a lot is this having confidence in yourself, not like how you look and think. It's like your confidence in yourself and what you do is
Right.
like it's untouchable. Like when people make comments, especially the negative ones, it just it's a strange thing, but it's like they don't come in, like you don't let them in, because you just acknowledge that they're kind of meaningless, because
Right.
my confidence isn't on something like my hair. So if someone makes a negative comment about it, it's like it doesn't relate to me at all. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not it's not a thing anymore. And I think, like you said, it's really important that you mentioned just having that confidence in yourself. You obviously build that up through, positive network around you, like a lot of other positive people who are focused very much on like, their achievements and how they treat
Right.
people and what they're doing, trying to help
I,
other people.
exactly. Like you said, the people that were around me, and also what I found that I wanted to focus on was what I do, instead of like who I am, because I think what I do is who I am. But if I sit around and think about who I am, then I'm not really doing things, and it's better to have who I am isn't decided by like what I do sitting here thinking about, you know?
Yeah. It also, like you said, you started YouTube at 17, right? And from then you've had this goal of, creating film. You've obviously gone to school for it. It's obviously a huge passion of yours, something you're really dedicated to. Do you think then also that because you had these big goals in what you wanted to achieve and you were working to achieve them, a lot of your attention is spent on achieving those things and getting to where you want to be with it?
Yeah.
Do you think that because you had that purpose and those things you were wanted to do, that when this thing that like hair loss came along, it was a lot less significance? Because let's be honest, that was never going to stop you from obtaining the things that you actually wanted to do. And like you said, you didn't really have time to sort of really sit there and lull over your hair falling out,
Right.
because
Yeah. Wait, completely. Yeah.
as a young guy, you had this passion and this, like I said, these things that you wanted to achieve. Do you think that's also?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's maybe subconsciously the biggest reason, because I had a focus and I had things to do, and maybe even more specifically, when I do films and when I do narrative work, like my big aspiration is to actually be a film director. My focus is I'm so focused on trying to do what I want to do that I don't worry like I would have before when I didn't have filmmaking, about other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that also, I talk about once you do also you shave off that hair, it gives you I think it gives you, like minimalism, right?
Right.
It's almost like a minimalist approach in a sense. There's like a
Yeah.
certain carryover in a sense that, like, it's one less thing to worry about,
Yeah.
and that carries on to, like you just mentioned there briefly, like worrying less about other things. And it also sparks, like, having dealt with that, that might have been an issue at some point, having dealt with it completely, put it in the past, and now it's one less thing to worry about. It has this like knock-on effect into other
Oh, hell yeah.
areas.
Hell yeah,
Have
yeah,
you had
yeah, yeah.
experience in that regard?
Yeah, for sure. Because when I was a teenager, it was such a big part of your daily ritual to do your hair and to worry about your hair. And I was like, oh man, and go to the bathroom at school and then oh man, does it look good? And then it's like, okay, you have no hair. You don't. That takes out it gives you so much more time in the day.
Yeah.
All you really have to worry about is actually shaving it. And yeah, personally, I I I only wear like solid colored V-necks or t-shirts, and it's so I don't know. My life is quite minimalist, at least in some parts where don't worry about my hair. Wear a black, white, maybe colorful shirt, some jeans or whatever. Don't worry about that. And
Yeah.
how much of your day is how much more energy can you focus each day on another thing than
Yeah.
those things?
Given all your sort of experience combined then into like the fact that you have this passion, which a lot of people do struggle with, let's be honest, like finding things like a purpose, or
Yeah, yeah.
what should they be sticking to? I suppose, given that and how you dealt with hair loss, at a young age, but do you have any advice on like how to kind of overcome this insecurity, especially for like young guys out there?
Yeah, I think yeah, you're right. Like quintessentially, whenever you're young, one of the big things that you worry about is what you're going to do growing up. And I was fortunate to figure that out when I was 17, 18. But whenever something like that, like balding, hits you at a younger age, it's much easier to consume you because you might not have something that you're wholeheartedly focused on. Uh, and it's not easy to like to say that, okay, if you do this, you'll be good, you'll be fine. If you think about it, like, if I'm gonna worry about my balding so much every day and stress out, how much am I losing out on what I could be doing otherwise? Uh, like I think if we're going back to the thing of like focus and what you're passionate about and what you're using so that you're not worrying so much about your hair, it falls down to doing things and experiencing things, right? So, like, if you don't know what you want to do in your life, then the best thing you can do, I think, is to do things and to experience things, because maybe you'll
Try new
find something
things.
by trying new things, and you can't figure out what you want to do if you're sitting down or laying down. I think if you're struggling with baldness and you want to stop going through that really difficult cycle of preventing it, and you want to embrace it, and you take a couple steps. Maybe you don't cut it off completely, but you go shorter, and you work on other things. I think that's one of the things that a lot of people talk about. Like, go to the gym.
Yeah.
If you're bald, going to the gym and growing a beard, like the two things that work really well together. If you try and move towards alleviating that pain of losing your hair, and if you try and move past that, what else are you doing to improve yourself? I think it's not really an answer, but more of a question that everyone should ask themselves. And if you
Yeah.
answer, I'm not moving forward, or I'm not losing the stress, then then the answer is like, okay, what can you do? What should you do?
Things I say to people is like one after they take that step, but it's almost like, really you could implement these positive things before you've kind of shaved it off. Ultimately, I think if your hair, this is my stance on it, right? It's like if your hair is falling out, whilst you kind of have it there, it's so easy to, like you said, like obsess over it, let it consume you. You'd be thinking about it all the time, And so it's just like once you just shave it off and you get rid of it, there is literally no hair there to worry about. It's gone.
Right.
It's done with, And that takes a huge amount of courage to just do that out of nowhere. But if you can muster that courage, you might be able to get enough confidence to do it through, like you said, if you've got that confidence in yourself through other pursuits that you enjoy, you ultimately will be less attached to to the hair, right, to the look of the hair. That is going to help you be able to just get rid of it. Ultimately, like if you have loads of other things that you're focusing on, like we said, there's less and less attention on the hair itself and more on other good things you've got going on in your life. And it's like you can either do that before or you can do it after. Often for people, like the first step is the shaving off the hair, and then afterwards they go, once they've done that, it's like, okay, what else can I do? Right, let me start going to the gym. Let me start
reading more.
Reading more, it's a big one. Once you read more, like loads of different ideas come to you for interesting things you want to do, pursue, and eventually, like you said, it gets to the point where you could find yourself making a YouTube video talking about your experience through losing your hair. Because now you can talk about it because it just isn't a thing for you anymore. It's not a negative thing. It's just an experience that you had, and now you can talk about it and share it openly. But it was at one time, it was a big focus, a big concern. And it's just a great thing to look back on. And this is why, I like having these conversations and putting it out there, because ultimately I just want that for, all the guys that are in that space struggling with it. They don't know where to go with it. And that's why actually it's a really interesting perspective you're sharing, because you're like me, I think a big part of it for you was the fact that you had a lot of your attention was focused on other like positive pursuits, right? So you were less and less attached to the hair, and it was easier then because of those things in your life, other good stuff you had going on in your life, which every guy does have and can have.
And it doesn't have to be huge. It can be something small, right?
One of the biggest things we taken from this chat, definitely is for you especially, and something I can relate to, is just the fact that you had a lot of attention on other things really made dealing with hair loss a lot easier, more of a simple thing. You kind of did it, it wasn't that long drawn out process over years and years of struggle. You just kind of new place, new opportunities, just dealt with it. And I really hope that the people listening to this and watching can take something from that, and it helps them. So Giovanni, thank you.
Hopefully.
Thank you so much, man, for having this conversation.
Thank you.
Wish you, all the best with your over in Amsterdam there. Wait, is it Amsterdam? Just Netherlands?
Yeah, just right next to Amsterdam. It's
right next to Amsterdam.
10 minutes away. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so over in the Netherlands, and good luck with that video as well. I'm sure it's going to get loads and loads more views. It's really inspiring, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.